Was ready now? Okay. Call today's meeting to order. Jen, will you do roll call, please?
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Len Tootie,
Here.
Jennifer Finley, Jim Molitor,
Here.
Carol Langford, Terry Pitts, Bing Matt, Ellie Bundy, Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dawson, James Steele Senior.
Jennifer, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Martin. Oh, Stephen, you want to lead us in a prayer? Thank you. Lem.
Lemlem sluk og den suten. Når man ser lukkes godt, så du jam så godt start og læs lukkes. Kom i hast lukkes godt et fast. Jeg så nogen det for læs ja, for get semet, for get i brot. Så det var startet. Jeg orkshit, lukkes ges på os. Når man ser lukkes godt, lut i brot tutsik. Shetsuti, nem kuisjam, sit luk stapet les u stemak skola. Shet lukes skoli et was, lukol kes nat skementen, lukol kes kali, en kwelten putie esquape me. Shet lukes skol. Hey, grandfather, help us out today, that we have a good meeting. And good days for everybody. Listen what we have to do, help the people out and help us, everybody, and the sick ones and whoever passed away. Thank you for your trails and everything. Jam.
Lem, Stephen. Okay. We don't have minutes this morning, so we'll do those next meeting. And we'll see if we want to add anything to the agenda. We have one walk-in. Anything else for the agenda? I do have to leave at around 9:30 or 10 for a little bit to do a reporter interview for a few minutes. That's the only thing I got to report on. So,
I have to leave
Carol?
at 11:30 to help with the Boys and Girls Club event today.
that's right. Today's their, what's it called? The something like,
I can't remember.
there's a title for it.
Anyway, it's at noon at the Boys and Girls Club in Polson. You can come and have a sack lunch. So don't be upset with me if you don't like sack lunches. We
Carol
were
made
there
it.
late last night making the roll-ups, so.
Okay, any other items? Is that it? Martin, thinking about it? One thing? Okay. Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve today's agenda. Motion by Jimmy. Second by Martin. Or Carol? Martin. All those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Okay. Stephen, yeah, come on up. Yep. Come up, spin the wheel. Well, these things don't help either.
Could you hear me? It's over. I brought some posters over for our powwow, our celebration, and like I said, this is my 20 years, And, you know, it's, 20 years of, how many is here? Eight. You could leave a couple for that. Well, anyway, we are having our powwow. We'd sure like to have the councilman come up. They were supposed to have that thing done next week. The basement. I made bets on that. $100, I bet you he won't have it done next week. It's been 2.5 years, almost 3 years, since that guy was gonna have it done. So anyway, it's supposed to be done next week. But I don't know, you know. And I was hoping that there should be a contract. There was no contract. I don't think there was a contract on that thing. I'm not sure. We were talking about it. If he doesn't come, we'll get somebody else to go ahead and just finish it. And we're going to, they're supposed to take out old toys this Thursday. We got some new toys since a couple of years ago. We haven't put up because of the COVID. And my picture's in here. Hey.
Hey, Carol has a question, Stephen.
And
Stephen,
tomorrow we're taking, what?
who was doing the project for you?
I can't hear you. I left my hearing aid home.
Who was doing the project for you?
I don't even know. It was Stephanie Gillum's husband.
Okay, we
That
have,
was the one that was supposed to finish it 2.5 years ago.
I think we have the ability to get him down there because I think he's worked for us in other arenas. We just need to say this needs to get done. If you don't want a black eye on your, your record, you better just
There
go
was
get
no
it done.
record on that, you know. And we talked about it, and it would be really nice if we had, because we moved Alan Pierre in the kitchen, and we thought, he said he was gonna finish right away. So he was upstairs, then Alan Pierre moved down there at the kitchen. Now they're all crowded in there, you know. So they have to take the food from there all the way around and to the basement. I call it the basement, so. So anyway, I don't know, we're just waiting. And there's always something wrong. They're always saying, well, we're waiting for the electrician, we're waiting for the water, we're waiting before we get this done. They got the floors and everything done, so. So anyway, we're stuck. And there was no contract and everything. So anyway, we're having this powwow at I don't know what you call that where they have the wakes in Arley, that big gym. That's where we're gonna have it. And it says the date on there, what we're gonna feed, we're gonna have silent auction and all that good stuff. So come all. And the other thing is we're going to Medicine Tree tomorrow. Because the kids didn't get to go because they had we had time off for 1 week, you know, spring break. So they want us to go up there, and they're gonna take the equipment. I'm just reading this what they gave me. So anyway, everything's coming up. Powwow this weekend in Missoula, Montana. And I think I'll go make a couple rounds and dance. And last week I thought I saw Jim up there in they called me up to say a prayer on the other side of, Kalispell. I don't know, the Montana, something, that big building where they have those, horses. They go up in the mountains. And, I said I was gonna come and see the tribe here, council. And this one guy, I don't get his name, but he worked with Louis Adams years ago. He used to ride across the mountains with him. And they wanted to bring some horses here and start a club here. But I don't know if that, few years ago, I come here, 30, 40 years ago, and there was a guy living up here, in Andy Andrews' place. You know where I live? Up there. And the trails, he said the trails were not taken care of. So, he wanted, somebody to pay him to clean the trails. He had a horse and a small saw, and you could clean up those trails. So that's my idea. We should go up there, hire somebody and clear those trails, so people could go up there, anybody. So, and my uncle Pete Beaverhead and them used to go up there, go hunting and just go up there that had good trails and just relaxing, But now I don't know whoever goes up there, That they ask, they said they talked to Louis Adams years ago, and they said they might have I don't know, you'll have to ask them what would they do, And I remember my grandfather, Alexander Beaverhead, used to have some horses, race horses. Louis Adams' dad, Cowshay, they used to have horses and racing all the time here. So, I want to say something. We're losing lots, The language is going good, it's pushing. But other things like traditional things, like wake-up songs, I remember they used to go around and there was a lot of teepees there, And they used to have somebody, big, strong person. You go in there, and if nobody's at the door, they would pull them out, Naked or not, they would pull them out, And if somebody's standing there, the law is you can't go in there. And they used to have a drum. Oh, hey, way, oh, hey, oh, hey. Just to wake up people, it's a celebration, And I said, maybe we should start one and go into RVs, pull them out. But, it's different now. I remember one year they called me to sing that song at Arlie Power. And I was singing there and somebody cussed me out. Hey, we're trying to sleep. And so I quit, And they used to have canvas dance. Right after we danced, we'd go out there and we'd start canvas. The old people, the Quakersous, all the elders would get around the canvas and start doing that. But it's a lot different, That's one traditional I haven't seen in about 50 years, are the wake-up songs.
When we had our summer camps, and we'd have campouts.
That what?
Summer camps with youth camps. We had camps up at Lost Sheep Lake, and then we had camps at Blue Bay.
Yeah.
We had camps up Middle Fork of the Jocko. That was standard protocol for our camps, is to have the wake-up song in the morning, and those campouts with the youth. But we haven't had any campouts like that in a long time. I don't know if they did that hunting camp or not, but we tried to keep it going for that. But at the powwows, you're right. I don't hear anybody doing it.
So anyway, in Kusamo, they got two little teepees, and we're gonna start doing that, and maybe bring it out to early celebration or to show what we used to do. I can't use you, Tom, because those teepees are small, and they got small doors. But, huh? I didn't mean to laugh, but anyway, things like that, we used to go across the river to Inkashulas, woodcocks, and go hunting, together. Picassoos used to go hunting over here. They had camps, Arlie. Everybody had camps to go hunting, ride horses, and they have their own rifles and Loma Woodcock would say, when I was young, my father used to be here telling me right here what we used to do. That was at Horseshoe Bend. We'd have a camp there, And today, it's different, We have cables, we got four-wheel drives. You go by yourself and shoot. Got a big rifle with a big scope, You make sure you hit it in the head because you'll ruin the body, So it's different, And I tell people today, they get mad at me, I say, hell, you go by yourself, and long time ago, it used to be about 8 or 10 people going up there riding horses, and the elders would tell us what to do, They had stories, stories, We'd sit there and listen to them, Here now you got a four-wheel drive, you go up there, go get a buffalo, you herd one down and shoot it, It's something, that we can't go back, I guess. We have to just go forward, See, they try to have something going on down Burma, Swaney, Patty Swaney and them, and they had that camp, and that died down, So I don't know what we could do, I guess we never could go back, So that's our traditional, really traditional. It's gone, long gone. It's all just stories now, Blind Moles and Pete Beaverhead, and woodcocks, Inkashulas, whoever, And it's sad, It's sad, It's just in full Indian people. But anyway, I got to go across. We got some visitors coming in from Hawaii or someplace. They're going to be right across there and make those faces like Tom does. That even scares me. Yeah, I know. See, you kind of scared me a little bit. I backed out, But anyway, it's they're going to be here. Then we're going to have things we're going to do, The kids have been working really hard down there. They didn't have no trips or so. We're putting so they could go somewhere, and have fun, go swimming or go someplace and things like that. So I hope you guys could come down to our powwow. I ordered a vest. I don't know if it's going to be done. I told Kusam you have to pay for that. So, and the other complaint I'm going to make is they had some toilets up there at Medicine Tree. Did you use it? That bathroom. Boy, it seemed like they used somebody already went in there already, and they should have some clean ones, And what else? They're going to have that river honoring. You probably know about that already. 9 and 10. It's going to be right on my birthday. Right on my birthday. 39 years old, Jack Benny. Remember Jack Benny? Yeah, he was character, you know. Okay, I'm going to go. I know you guys are busy, so I thought I'd just come. Oh, our fence.
I've talked to Mark Couture about it. He's saying it's in the works. So I don't know if they don't have a date yet, but they're gonna do it. They just don't know the date. They're gonna fix it, yeah. Yeah. Is that gonna be for your buses? Are you gonna put your buses in there? Yeah.
I was gonna tip it over when you were in there, but. Madam Lips. Martin.
Yeah, hard one to follow. I was just gonna give an update on the medicine tree trip, but keeping kind of covered the lowlights. Maybe I'll touch on the highlights. Really good showing of people there. I know that a couple of the schools were on spring break, so in Cusum and Two Eagle couldn't make it, but it sounds like they're going tomorrow. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone that went there from council and just kind of our little community. It's always good to go down there and exercise our connection with the place. Yeah, had a meal with some people. I was thinking next year, and I've talked to some other people about it, about, you know, the way we used to do it was we'd always kind of meet and have kind of a picnic type meal. There's a park just down the highway. It's actually kind of still in Darby. So rather than going to Hamilton and go outside the Darby community, it'd be cool to have a little gathering down there and maybe have it, I won't call it catering, but, you know, just have a, you know, that way we don't have to worry about the prep and all that. Just, you know, try that. You know, we feed a lot of people and did the math on the numbers, and it's, we could feed a lot, probably feed twice as many people with what we spend, and, you know, have it be more of a inclusive, you know, I feel like it's kind of like, the joke is when they're taking the picture, they yell coffee pot. And everyone's supposed to, that's the key little word. And the people that are in the know show up, and the people that don't just keep driving and go eat wherever. So it'd be nice to be able to kind of announce that and have everyone go, and, you know, just, again, you know, going down and going to the tree is something that's good, but going there and you bring some fishing poles and, you know, whatever else down there and just be like, this is kind of who we are and what we are. So, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
Tom,
Yeah, go ahead.
she is gonna be ready for you. She just came in for your interview in your office.
Okay. Glenn?
Yep.
Good word.
I think he's, interviewing.
Even a prayer.
Okay, let's start with the, next issue. Ann, you wanna come on out? Good morning. Okay.
One issue that'll be, need to be an executive, it's a personnel issue, so whenever you, whatever you'd want to do that, both are fairly short.
Let's go ahead and do the action item first, then we'll go into executive.
Thank you. So, first item then is I'm asking for permission to apply for a small grant from the Montana Healthcare Foundation. They've offered us $5,000 to, offset costs for two of the Tribal Defenders team to attend the National American Indian Housing Council Annual Convention. And that's in Waikoloa, Hawaii. So, they've been invited to speak along with our, technical advisor, Bo Simone, and would also make some, connections with other housing programs.
What is the date on that, Ann?
It is May, the second week of May, it is May 8th through the 11th, I believe,
Oh, okay.
is when the convention is.
So the staff people are invited to come over and speak?
They've been invited to come and present on, reducing barriers for re-entering people. And the whole conference, there's many people presenting on addressing homelessness in Indian country. So they'll be making some connections, which is one of the reasons why the Healthcare Foundation wanted to help fund it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's pretty exciting, especially asking our staff people to come over and
Yeah.
talk, so.
Very exciting.
All right, any questions from the council? Martin, then Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and thanks as always for everything you do. Yeah, I was gonna make the motion, but if Terry has a question, I'll
Okay.
make a motion, then go from there.
All right, Terry?
Thank you. And I was, echoing what Martin says, really appreciate your efforts, involvement. Barriers, is that something you could talk about?
Yes, exactly. That's one of the, that'll be the topic of what they speak about. And what we've also offered them is that Stephen would speak about his method of providing case management services, which I think you heard some about at those meetings. And how he weaves in culture with what he does. And I think that's going to be really, I'm hoping it's going to be groundbreaking with some of these other programs that are looking at doing housing and providing services.
Okay. Motion by Martin and second by Terry. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed, same? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay. And, we will go into executive session. And we have a motion by Carol to give the Defenders Department head the authority to,
make a decision to offer the,
Hiring decision to hire within budget.
okay,
That
Yep.
kind of puts a,
You just specifically make it for this, or just so that there's something in the. I'm sorry. You know, I would like it to be in the minutes, kind of specifically for this position, so Ann has something to point to when she brings us back to personnel.
okay. So let's start with that first.
the amendment to the motion that she's
Okay,
allowed
so,
to proceed with the position. What's the name of the position?
Family defense attorney?
Family defense attorney, and then also give her the authority to hire within budget. Right,
okay,
I don't know if I said that a couple of times.
and second by Martin. Any other comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed, same? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
What's that? I didn't catch them. Jennifer, did you get that? One abstention, Jennifer?
And
Out of the
Tom
room.
out of the room.
Oh, no, I vote yes, sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. We are good. Well, thank you, Ann.
Thanks very much.
Can we go back into executive?
And we will go back into executive session with yeah, just started. You want to set the platform? You want me to?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning, Kyra.
How are you?
Go ahead, you guys. Who's taking the lead on this? Whisper?
Great, good morning. I'll give Rob a little break from his extensive work. We have Kira Kay with us today. She's a filmmaker, and previously she had gotten approval for filming at the Bison Range for a documentary that she's working on. And Kira, when I'm done, you can fill in any holes if I missed something. Part of it was looking at elder and children interactions. The Bison Range, you know, we're still getting going. We don't have a lot of activities to represent some of that yet at that venue. And so as she was planning to do her filming, we thought that potentially the river honoring might be a place where she could do some filming with permission from people, of course, that would be included in that. And we needed to get separate approval because she would be filming elsewhere than the Bison Range. So it would just be asking for permission for filming at the Bison, or I'm sorry, at the river honoring for this year. Kira, are there any holes there?
Well, thank you, Whisper. It would be terrific if we could think ahead as well. And as you know, we've been talking about a lot of the other environmental mitigation work that the tribe has been doing, which, as I'm beginning to learn as I'm speaking to all of you, is more on the reservation land than on the range land itself. So could I just maybe give an overview of the project, where we think we're heading with all of this? And then you guys can tell me what you think is needed for approvals, what isn't, what is already obtained.
Yes, please.
Terrific. So thank you very much for hearing from me directly, and I appreciate all of the tribe's support over this year. As you remember, I had to put in some grant requests to fund this project last year, and that finally did come through at the end of last year. And so I've been speaking with Whisper and Rich and Stephanie, and Rob has been super helpful on this as well, to sort of shape a plan. And I've been talking, I've worked a lot over the years with PBS and PBS NewsHour, but was starting to talk to ABC News because they have a new greater interest in deeper material, longer form material, because they have these new streaming platforms. They created something called ABC News Studios last year to do more filmic projects, and still under the head of news. It's still news gathering. It's not, they are doing more entertainment things as well, and National Geographic as well, but the core of it is news, and that's kind of what I am as a journalist first and foremost, but using now the documentary media medium as a way to look a little bit deeper at the work that CSKT has been doing on the environmental front. I have been working with the climate and environment editor at ABC. They're very interested in the content of the 2016 climate plan. I had learned from my early conversations about the work that's being done to undo the unjust infrastructure, was the quote that really stuck with me, of the irrigation system and the negative impact on the waters, on the fish, generally on the environment. And so I'm sort of seeing this as a seasonal documentary that would start now in the spring with the kind of spring activities. We've been talking a lot about the work on the range, including with the invasive species and the management of the bison herd and the elk and those things, but bringing in the way that the tribe honors, bundling a trip in May to see some of the early spring mitigation work, planning, cleaning, maybe preparing for the prescribed burns later, thinning, those kinds of things, in conjunction that week around the date of this river honoring. And then for sure, coming back in the fall, as we had discussed originally, about the around the date of the bison roundup, and seeing what kind of fall work might be underway to sort of clean up and finish the work before the winter comes. Hoping for a July visit. I don't yet have the funding for that, but I am talking to a couple of other foundations. I'm a nonprofit, small production company, so we do all of our work on social justice issues through foundation grants that we raise. So hoping for a July trip to see, possibly to attend the powwow in Arlee, and to see then maybe more the role of tourism. Whisper and I talked a lot about the income generation possibilities of tourism, but the balance of making sure that preservation continues with that. The redo of the visitor center, I think, is extremely important. The work that Stephanie has been leading on changing, updating, clarifying the history for visitors. So those are kind of the three seasonal components that I'm thinking of in terms of the production. So if you want to think ahead, that's great. If you want to just think about May right now, that's fine. But that's the scope of what I hope the project will be. And then for finishing in whenever the roundup activities are done in the fall, I would probably have been working on the editing and preparation of this. So we hope to finish it by November, which will be a really nice time to sort of look back at a year's worth of beautiful images, nature, people doing good work, and hopefully something uplifting.
Any comments or questions from council? Well, Kara, I want to thank you. Bing, did you have a? Okay, Bing has a comment. Then Carol.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Say, I was just wondering about activities that's going to go on down there at the honoring. If maybe possibly we have to ask the cultural committee to do something. We're going to film and stuff.
Yeah, we could do that. We can have Sadie, contact Sadie at the culture committees in Vernon and have them available for that. Carol?
Yeah, I'm just glad, ma'am, what was her name?
I'm Kira. Hi.
Yeah, Kira, I'm just glad you had a chance to explain it. You know, sometimes we get exploited by people writing grants and thinking they're, doing good, but this sounds like a very honorable thing you're doing. So, so we need to authorize a permit. Is that correct, for the river honor, to include the river honoring? Or is there, now it sounded like she wanted to maybe explain so she could include other things. I'm not sure.
From listening to Kira's presentation, it sounds like the river honoring, which was our initial intent, and then potentially the Arlie powwow.
I'll make that motion. Is that what it's required, Whisper's authorization?
The policy in the past has been more a practice than a hard firm policy, usually with my role in the communication office and lands with permitting. And the path we've always followed is permission for each location on tribal land. If they were shooting, say, in the city proper of Polson, we don't have to give any kind of permission. But if they're on trust land of some kind or something like Three Chiefs, then that, or the powwow grounds, that would require council approval. And for sake of ease of project, a lot of our members are approached by a filmmaker and may not be reading all the minutes. They're assured that the filmmaker can go, well, council approved this, and here's the action, even if it tends to pave the road for the filmmaker and make their job easier. That is, I think a lot of our members have also struggled with feeling potentially they're not sure if it's a above board project or not. And so with council approving it, it ensures, oh no, council's well aware and they support and your involvement is expected. So thank you.
Yeah, I think you're right, Rob. They feel vulnerable. But also I appreciate the staff and the work that you've done behind this to also be sitting here and making me feel comfortable. It's okay to go forward because you've worked at it. Thank you.
Thank you. And the support has been wonderful. And it really started, in the early fall when I had advanced to a second round of grant making. Early talks with Whisper and Rich in particular really gave me what they would want this story to look and feel like, which I was then able to put in my proposal and still use as a guiding document. I did want to add one other thing, and this may or may not be relevant to you all. On Rob's recommendation, I've reached out to Professor Rick Everett at the college to talk about the traditional ecological knowledge classes. I didn't want to go back to him to confirm until I had spoken with all of you. The training of the next generation of this would also be great to see. I don't know if that is part of this permissions process or if that would come from the college itself, but I did not want to forget to mention that he was going to let me know what kind of classes might be available in May once it was confirmed that I was coming out.
Any other comments, questions? We have a motion. Martin, do you have a comment?
Just because it always comes up, this doesn't fit under the needing an IRB or anything like that.
I'm not totally sure. That's usually research related. Like if somebody's doing a research project and publishing, I think that people should get permission. Usually there's human permission slips. Kira, correct me if I'm wrong, that you would have people sign if they wanted to see, or if they did not.
We actually don't, under news guidelines, which I've confirmed that ABC News Studios is still under, and some documentary projects do have that. We do not do permission forms. Either the one-on-one interviews, which would all obviously be with people's permission because they would be sitting down in front of a camera, and we usually get a, hi, my name is blank, on screen, and I'm giving you this interview. But we don't do permission things. Usually, it's an interesting, we filmed at the Namipu powwow in Kamiai 2 years ago. And that was really also just permission to be on the grounds. And then the notion was filming was open and anybody who didn't want to be filmed could absolutely say that. And there were some people, we made sure we put our camera on one side only to not collect people who didn't want to be filmed. Although I found that most people were thrilled to be filmed and we had a wonderful time and very fruitful, which is what led to this project, by the way. I had sought a small clip of the film that was done and reached out to Brian Upton. And that is how I actually learned about the return of the bison range and all of the great work you all are doing. So it led to this. But anyway, back to the point is that permission to be at the event, the interaction with people at the time to say, no, I don't want to be filmed, or sure, I'll give you an interview. But we don't do releases. That's a documentary thing, not a news thing.
Any other questions? Yes, Rob?
Just to close the loop, I would think that the college would, be calmed by seeing council's approval of the overall thrust of the project. But I do think protocol would be wise for the documentary makers to check in with the college to make sure they're good with it. I think the college should have the ability to set any boundary if one is needed.
Oh, sure.
Also, the way things work, if the staff is willing and recommending, and then council recommending, I think that eases any concern the college may have. So my advice would be, yeah, check with the college.
Sure, we wouldn't be there without their permission, because obviously we would want to be in a classroom and meeting who the students are and getting a little interview about the content of the class from a professor. So yes, that would be fully collaborative. I just wanted to make sure that if this was something you also needed to sign off on, that would be great in this round.
Okay. Everybody agrees with that? So we have a motion by Carl, second by Ellie. All in favor? For the river honoring and the Arlie powwow, not both powwows?
There's two separate powwows. One is right around the 4th of July, then we skip a week, and then we have the Standing Arrow powwow. Are you trying to be here for both or just one?
One, and this would be really great to talk about in terms of what else might be going on in terms of the range work. Because I don't have, I'll be lucky to get the funding for a few days, because boy, airfares are expensive and accommodation is expensive that time of year. If the later one is better, I'm really open to what you guys advise. And again, trying to multi-purpose. You know, the biggest challenge for me on this is that I am not living local. I'm hoping to hire local if something comes up that I can't get out for. But I really am bundling as much as I can over these 2 to 3 trips. So whichever of those two you think is a more fruitful time, with other things going on, and I'd be glad to take your lead on that. I think timing wise, either one is fine. I could also come back to you, you know, after this first shoot, and we could decide then.
All right, clear as mud.
Or I would be grateful for permission to do either one, to be honest. Anything I can let my editors know is possible, it would be great.
All in favor? Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, I'm abstaining from the motion because I would like to see the culture committee's approach before we do any kind of things like that. Thank you.
We have 2 abstentions, Martin and Bing. Motion carries. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I look forward to meeting some of you in person.
All right, thank you, Kara.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah.
What time did you want to come back after your break?
Yeah, right after the break.
10:40?
10:45.
I knew you were.
Pesquet, thank you for having us. And we are here for an hour-long and no more presentation for the SKQ annual submittal. This will be the 2023 submittal. We are giving you a presentation on our FY22 report and the FY24 work plan. The report has been uploaded to our Teams group so that you all can view that there. And that's the draft. At the end of today, before we leave, we would like to have, if you so choose, your permission to advance the report to the consultation group, which is the next to last step before we submit it to the BIA and FERC. So this presentation will review, recap that document that you've been provided for the annual submittal, and you'll have a chance to ask us any questions and we can add any edits. And then we would like to submit that to our consultation group that consists of the BIA, the Fish and Wildlife Service for ESA consultation, Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks, I believe is an independent group that can see and provide comments, and EKI. We have gone through legal review at this point, and our attorneys have said that the legal notes that the submittal appears to meet the minimum legal requirements for FWIS and the license, and they had no substantive changes to the draft. So that was the piece that we didn't get to give you yet. There we go. I'm starting off talking about the annual budget. These are tables from the submittal, and the first is our projected fund balance from FY22. This was the report out. We had some challenges in that the letter from BIA did not reach us quickly, as neither did it this year, but we've got that reconciled. So we had a budget last year of $2,487,736. We were able to spend that and had some that we returned to the account.
Whisper, before we go on item number 1, beginning balance on 10/1/21, you have 846, 836. Is that a carryover?
That is, I believe, the carryover, yes. I will also say I'm new and really trying to get my brain wrapped around the intricacies of this submittal. So yes, we work with our finance people and they provide these numbers to us annually, and we work with them to check our accounts and make sure everything's even and the things that we put in. So yeah, I guess I would think that maybe that was what we returned to the fund, because the actual expenses were $2 million. Roughly $2 million. For the projected balance for our FY24 proposals, those are down here at the bottom. We are projecting next year, to spend $2,973,416 out of the FWIS. That is our general account. We will spend. Sorry, I have to move here so I can see my whole presentation here. That will keep our account balance very similar to what it's been. If you look at the final row, in the final column of the $8,437,000. Next is a breakdown of our overall proposed budget for FY24, just showing where that $2,900,000 comes from. That is personnel, operations, travel, contracts. Nobody's proposing any capital at this moment, and then the indirect costs. It's also broken down for FSRP, which is our fisheries habitat restoration. No land is proposed to be spent, so there's zeros in that column. And then FHWR is the wildlife habitat restoration account. Those two just get drawn down over time. Any questions on this budget?
This is the funding that we use for MAC days,
Partially.
right?
If there's no questions, I'm going to turn it over to Les, and there will be time again. If you have any questions, we can still go over this if there's anything you're seeing.
On your question, and one other thing relative to the budget stuff there, and I'll defer to Todd to talk about this in his section. There looks like an opportunity that just came to us as early as last week to do some work out at Blue Bay on the docks and stuff. And that's coming through maintenance. And if that actually comes to fruition, I might come back in before we submit this, and I'll highlight it on the final copy. We might put in another contract item for about $100,000 to create a boat, shore station for our biggest boat. Right now, we can't use our biggest boat on the shoulder seasons, spring and fall, when we need it the most because of the weather conditions then, because it's too big to launch at low pool. So we have to use smaller boats. And if we could get a shore station there, which we have had a consultant design for us and estimated cost about 3 years ago, we got a little sticker shock at $100,000 then, and decided not to do it. Council had approved it at that time, but we did not go ahead. But now that we know how important it is, and if the upgrades are made through maintenance funding, which Todd will explain a little bit about, we might come back in before we actually submit the final and add a budget item. So this thing that looks like a abstract moose head is actually the Jocko watershed. And I want to direct your attention to a fairly thin line showing you where the K Canal diversion is there. You probably all know that, but we've been working in this drainage for some time, managing West Slope Cutthroat. And this drainage has still a pretty good, healthy population of fluvial West Slope Cutthroat. So they're migrating downstream, even to the main river, and coming back up and spawning in tributaries. But for years, because of the irrigation project, they get stopped at the K Canal and the Upper S Canal. And we've been trapping and managing them and allowing just pure strain to pass and spawn and turning back the others. That happens at the K Canal diversion, and you may all know that that diversion is being worked on right now, and we could have a new, very good structure there to help us with this management operating this irrigation season. So that work, what we've been doing there for about 14 years now is stopping those fish, trapping them, and looking at the phenotypic characteristics, and only passing what we consider pure strain cutthroat, turning back the rest. And we've had this tested. We take genetics from all of them, and we test our staff as to their best guess. I mean, you cannot tell a hybrid from a pure strain very well, but we've gotten very good at it. The other thing that the graphic on the left shows there is that rainbows move in usually before the hydrograph, before high flows, and try to spawn. So we know when they're coming, and we turn them back. And then that line at the top in that graphic shows that cutthroat tend to come on the hydrograph or on the receding end of the hydrograph. That also helps us quite a bit, but we've actually proven it here by taking genetics. And by the way, most of these slides I'm going to show you are right out of the document you have, and that's where those captions come from that I'm lamely trying to explain because I don't do the research. I just take credit for it. So this is what those results have been look like now for almost 13 or 14 years here. Each year we're getting a little bit better, and we're passing more and more these are big fluvial fish. You know, I'm talking about 16, 18, 20-inch pure strain cutthroat that are passing here. And we're liking the trends here, and the new facility, the old facility that we've been using does leak at high flows, and some fish are getting past us, we know that. But when this new facility gets done this spring, it'll be airtight, and this will be even more effective. So we're pretty happy with that progress. This is Magpie Creek, another place that we're managing for West Slope Cutthroat. And in this situation, the issue is a little bit different. It's pure strain. And years ago, we put in a barrier down there so that rainbows can't get into this as rainbows expand in the lower river, as they have since the new flows below the dam have encouraged it. But they can't get in here. What we have in here are brook trout, which compete with West Slope cutthroat. So we've been removing brook trout mechanically through electrofishing through these years, almost 10 years now, and we like that trend line as well. The idea here is not to continue this forever, but to get, if you can get them low enough, there's some experimental work going on in Idaho where they genetically alter cutthroat in the hatchery to make them super males. They got 2 male chromosomes. Once you get a population so suppressed, we would then stock those in here. They'll breed, and that could crash the brook trout population, making this a pure strain population. There's some work that's working elsewhere. Here but you have to get the population really low for that to be effective. So we like the trend line here as well.
Well, it's just a quick question. Part of these, these experiments or these tests, do we have fish out there tagged where we're able to keep track of them, where they're migrating to?
Yes, particularly in the Jocko, we've used telemetry tags. And the other thing that's going to happen with that new structure there, we're going to start using pit tags, which are small tags you put in the cheek. You can't see them. They're microchips, and you can scan. And the new facility is going to actually have 2 facilities in the Jocko will have automatic recording devices that whenever a fish that has been tagged goes through there, it gets recorded. And they're individual fish. So in the Jocko, we're doing a lot of that. Not so much on magpie. This is a bunch of graphics. Given the time, I don't want to explain them, but these are trends over time since we've been doing lake trout suppression. So I'm shifting to the lake here where we also are managing for native fish and trying to encourage the condition for bulls and cut. The first one is simply the size of the fish. As you suppress the population, you'd expect the size of the fish and the age of the population to become less. So that's a positive downward trend. The next one to the right, figure 1B, or 1.4B, that is simply the average number of fish per net that we get. We're catching less fish per net. That's pretty obvious progress there too. The bottom 2 graphics, which have upsloping trending lines, are maybe a little bit more harder to understand, but the one on the lower left is the number of samples, sections of net that we have out there that we catch no lake trout in, and these random samples in the fall. So those are going up, which would also indicate that we have fewer fish out there. And the final one, relative weight, it's a little hard to explain as well, but as we reduce the overall population, competition for forage fish goes down, and your fish actually get more robust, get healthier, and that's explained. But all these trend lines are showing that we're having an effect on the lake, which is good because it's pretty expensive. And how do we do it? This is just a shot of our big boat that I want to get on that shore station. We get a lot of PR on it. This happens to be PBS filming the action that day. Still doing MAC days. It's still effective. I think this graphic tells the story pretty well. So we started in 2000 with contests. We got to around 2010, 2012. We weren't getting any more out of it. So we came to you and we did an EIS to bring out the nets. We've been netting since 2014. As you can see, our net catch is going up. And these last 3 years, you can see that the contribution from MAC days is actually going down. That should also tell you the fishing's a little tougher for these folks. Again, showing a positive effect of reducing lake trout. The black line is simply our target there. We haven't got it yet. COVID got us in 2002. Last year, in 22, we had a lot of mechanical problems, so it slowed us down. But our model tells us if we get to that 143,000 and sustain it for a couple of years, we're going to have as much as a 75% reduction. So I think this tells a lot. And we're still doing this. We started Native Fish Keepers in 2017. It's going well as well. Again, you can see a dip there for COVID. That kind of set us back, but just the number of fish that we get affects how many we can sell. So this has been a pretty positive thing. That money goes right back into lake trout suppression and the SERP fund and keeps that fund healthy. I think that's all I've got.
Thank you, Les. Do we have any other questions or do we want to save them till the end?
Any questions from council? That'd be a good presentation. Timed it just right.
You're the one with the most questions.
Oh, I would, yes. Put you all in the hot seat. The rotating spotlight on Dan. Move it over to
Well,
Les.
thank you. I'll take over, Carrie Kingery with the Wildlife Management Program. Here is just sort of a view snapshot of what our yearly task different surveys looks like. And so you can see we get quite we're pretty busy throughout the year, but kind of you can really see the field season there between April and September is when the bulk of our work occurs. And so I did want to highlight all of the surveys that we conduct annually that are part of the SKQ budget. And so, you know, you can see a big portion of those as well come from that. And so these were all ones that were that should be conducted annually or kind of rotationally. These ones here highlighted in blue did not get conducted last year. We were hoping to hire an additional biologist who would kind of take over these small mammal and bird surveys, but we weren't quite able to get them yet, so we're hoping to get them out for this coming season to kind of get those back on schedule again. We do, with part of this funding as well, have Flathead River corridor surveys for big game. And so kind of you can see that area there in the mark. I also wanted to attach our 5-year flight plan, and these are the ones that we did have successfully flown last year. So you can see that 4 of those kind of river corridor sections were surveyed last year for big game, and so we did get great results. We kind of switched to a contracting agency last year instead of having biologists in a helicopter, and that did prove pretty good results. And so we're going to continue with that to try to improve the quality of the data that we get. Over the year, last year, our staff presented over 20 public 20 events and presentations to public groups, really promoting that importance of habitat restoration and the management of wildlife to try to increase public awareness, knowledge, and try to really get at decreasing some of that human and wildlife conflict. Then we also really want to express knowledge of cultural values and language of local wildlife species through these outreach events as well. Another kind of part of this funding source we use for human wildlife conflict and research management. So kind of just on some of the properties adjacent, so as we're restoring habitat, wildlife habitat, they're being used by wildlife. But again, you know, we also have folks, you know, residents living in these immediate areas that do have issues with wildlife, come into conflict with them. Last year we had over 400 human bear conflicts. 34 of those were grizzly bears in areas around these wildlife mitigation areas where we've restored habitat for grizzly bears and other species. And so we have biologists that really work strongly with the public in promoting non-lethal predator control measures, using electric fencing, flattery, working with residents to secure attractants, reduce attractants on fruit trees, that sort of stuff. And then we do, you know, have additional funding that helps us install electric fences for some of these people as well. And then we also have these non-lethal predator control loaner kits that have electric fences, they have critter getters, they have trail cameras, things that will help landowners, you know, see what's going on their property and help prevent carnivore conflict. We did also continue to monitor for trumpeter swans on the reservation. You can see there kind of our long-term trend. We did have 30 nests that were identified last year, 23 of which were successful at producing fledged cygnets. And then we did last year archive all of our nesting territories into ArcGIS so that we can more easily monitor those into the future. And then a big bulk of our work with
Carrie, could I ask one question?
Yeah.
Are you doing any more markings on the power lines for this one?
As they come up, yeah, so if we have, power line areas where there's, been a few power line collisions with swans, then we will, work, with, not MDT, MVP, on, identifying those. And I think there are a couple of sections, that Dale had flagged that, he had wanted to get some in, but hadn't quite yet, so we're, gonna touch back and see if there are some areas that we can get some more of those reflectors out. Yeah, thank you. A big bulk of this funding again is the habitat restoration component. And so you can see here are a few different methods we've used over the years. The one kind of being the most successful is the top right photo there, where there's kind of that teardrop fence hog panel. And what this does is it really allows for more hands-on maintenance of the plants. And, you can see that there really has been a great response to that. One of the caveats, we aren't putting as many plants on the landscape annually, but with the ones that we do put out, we have a higher success rate of them growing to kind of these larger mature trees. Last year, we planted 470 shrubs and trees across a variety of these different wildlife properties. And then a big part of this as well, is restoring, getting water back on the landscape, but then also controlling those invasive weed species. So we did spray 445 acres of land for different invasive weed species as well. We did have 2 separate wildlife mitigation properties that were seeded with grassland mixtures. And then we did also, have 2 properties, kind of that one of them being that Kicking Horse South area that were burned. And so we do have a rotational burn schedule on these areas that do help promote and invigorate that growth of the native vegetation as it grows back. And then also something we're really keying into lately are pollinator plants. And so sometimes fire for some of those species are really important to help rejuvenate them as well. And we are really starting to see some great responses of wildlife back into these areas that have had, ongoing habitat restoration projects on. Another quick thing I wanted to touch on, we do also survey, early on, we did have some reintroduction efforts for leopard frogs. And this area over in Nirada has been one of the successful areas of that reintroduction effort. So you can see that we do have documented breeding activity. We have egg masses kind of spreading along that kind of reservoir channel there, or not reservoir, but the canal or the creek channel there, kind of working its way back to the river. We are starting to see more leopard frogs in more areas, kind of across the highway. We haven't documented any breeding over there yet, but we are still surveying for them over there. So it's a great success story to see them expanding and growing. But it's also, interesting study because we also have bullfrogs that have been detected on kind of that lower Flathead River area. And so one thing, bullfrogs have been a detriment to the leopard frog population. And so it is something that we've been concerned about and watching. And so you can see in this slide, we are starting to detect movement of bullfrogs from the river kind of up this water system to where we have leopard frogs reintroduced. And so that's something that we've been watching, kind of waiting for that interaction, and then just to see kind of what will happen there. One thing 2 years ago that we did notice, we started to see them show up in some ponds and canal irrigation systems in the Mission Valley. And so before they established in the wetlands and the Mission Valley, we also wanted to really focus efforts on getting ahead of that spread. And so we worked last year with the Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Montana Conservation Corps and AmeriCorps. We worked with some students that they had hired, and they did some bullfrog kind of surveillance efforts. They mapped the area. They also removed bullfrogs in both tadpole and adult frog forms. Really, again, to prevent that spread, get ahead of it before they really establish outside of that river system there in the Mission Valley.
That looks like the crew from the film Cannery Row.
And that's all I had for you guys. Thank you.
morning, everyone. My name is Todd Espinoza. I'll be going over the wildland recreation section. As you can see in the pictures here, this is a park we maintain, Big Crane Park, the tribal-only park, down by the shore there. This is an area where we are constantly down there in the summer mowing and picking up garbage, maintaining the structures, cleaning up graffiti, whatnot. We also oversee the Salish Point out there, and it's a similar, we don't have to mow that area, but a lot of dock work went into it this last year on dock edge and replacing boards as needed. We also pump out the vaulted toilets there yearly. Well, here's some improvements we've done to the Blue Bay Campground area. So here you can see we attached a new security fence to some of the paid slips. Just add extra security to these additional paid slips. We've also done improvements to the dock there, both on the boards and to the day use slips. You can see here Joe Santos attaching the dock edge, and Paskin Vinny doing the improvements to the slips themselves. And while I'm at this picture too, I kind of want to touch base on what Les had mentioned earlier. As you can see in this picture, the cribbing, and it's hard to see unless you're actually out there, is failing. The supports are crumbling, and the railing in a lot of sections is very dangerous. We did a lot of repairs to the slips last year because we had a few that were sectioned off for security reasons, or safety reasons, sorry. With those improvements, it's definitely been beneficial to the use of the marina, but it's still very dangerous. We got some news here the other day from maintenance that they have $500,000 allocated to fix the dock and do these much needed repairs, which we're very excited for. It's going to be a little bit of a stretch because they are going to have to replace so much or try to repair so much. One of the ideas, McCrum went out there on Friday and he met up with Barry. I couldn't be there during that time, but they brought up some different ideas, and different things were thrown around. We haven't had an official estimate yet, but one of the main things we'd like to see while we're doing these repairs is to not only benefit the campground and the safety of the campers, but to also benefit the fisheries program. And they'd like to install their boat lift on the very end of the main dock out there. It would just need to be shored up enough so it could support that large boat. And I know that's $500,000 nowadays. It doesn't go far with construction costs and everything. So we're really hoping that if we could potentially leave the cribbing for the wave break for the marina and build the pilings surrounding it, and to build the dock kind of equal level, but only have to replace the boards and whatnot, maybe it could be stretched that far. And to support that end for the fisheries program would be very beneficial as well. You can see in this picture here, we maintain all the boat launches along the river and on the lake as well. A lot of garbage, a lot of people partying down there, but that's the main thing, and signage issues. You can see in the picture to the right here, this is the river honoring site. So they go down there early, and it's usually a lot of down trees and whatnot, and to clean up people partying from the previous years. They've actually been down there the last couple of weeks getting it ready for this year, helping set up all the teepees and just getting everything ready, and they clean up afterwards. Oh, sorry, and this one is in Moise Valley as well, if anybody's curious. We also have done a lot of signage issues around Flathead Lake, especially around Elmo area in the new tribal member only sections to put up tribal member only signs, put up dozens of those. Whether or not they're all there is a different story. People love to steal them and shoot them up, but the effort that counts there. I'll kind of go over some future projects, some of the more exciting ones. So like I mentioned, they're out the river honoring today. Actually, a lot of slash piles burned and just cleaning up things. Some other exciting project, Dixon Agency, the recreation area. I know Martin Charlotte was pivotal in the planning of that. It's a very exciting project where I think would be really beneficial to the community out there. Blue Bay has a few different projects coming up. We have a bat mitigation. Both the fisheries program is having their building mitigated, and we are as well. We are working with housing and increasing our full service campsites by 8 too, which would be, we have a much needed use for those. We were approved also through maintenance on windows and hand railing in the lakefront building as well. That'll all take place hopefully before we open up. Yeah.
Talk about the next beautiful.
Oh, sure.
Maybe
Yep.
go back to the transfer.
Okay. Yeah, Whisper and I have been applying, the early stages of applying for the America the Beautiful grant. What we're trying to go for is to benefit the erosion issues we've been seeing both at Big Train Park and Salish Point and at Blue Bay, especially at Salish Point. If you've been down there in recent years, there's a lot of erosion. So we're working with Mark Lorang. He's the one that originally designed Salish Point. And if this all goes as planned, we could potentially, if we get this grant, we could go and fix these erosion issues. Also up in Finley Point, there's some different areas out there, tribal leases, and we try to include those as well. Try to improve those erosion issues from the dam being put in the past.
Currently, that's a pre-proposal process. We're not putting in an official proposal. It's invited. So we're gonna try to get a good pre-proposal in and see if we can get on their interest, and then we'll come to council to ask for the official proposal permission. But that dynamic beach creation, we think, is a pretty good one that's possible to get funded. We have a couple staff that were unable to be here today, and so I'm going to give you a quick update about Aquatic Invasive Species Program. Katie Finley is our program manager for that. She's been doing a really great job in organizing her people, getting them trained, and operating those check stations. In 2022, they performed watercraft inspections both over Valley and Thompson Falls. 17,821 watercraft were inspected. They decontaminated over 167 watercraft fouled by plants, mud, and water. And they're working with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks closely, as we have for many years. They've also done outreach and education at the mussel walks and talking to students, but also the lake honoring and the river honoring. Again, I did comment this to you a different time I was here that Eurasian water milfoil was found in Pablo Reservoir. We are working here coming up soon to start to look for the infestation and still trying to figure out where we can get funding to eradicate this. Superintendent's still here. He indicated as well that that's something we really need to get on. We don't want to have that spread around the reservation. For the 2024 work plan, Katie plans to continue to train and monitor her inspectors to just keep doing the great work that she's been doing so far with outreach and education. We put in for a BIA invasive species grant that I think we got whispers that we might have been approved for. And it looks like she may be able to buy another mobile decontamination station, as well as purchase a couple hybrid vehicles to be able to run to Thompson Falls, to be able to go around to some of our lake recreation sites and do spot inspections and outreach and education. We really think we're getting that grant. We haven't got the official word, but we think it's happened. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for helping us with legals time. Both Chelsea and Lindsay have been amazing in helping us try to chase money for AIS. We've been working as a team to put in applications all over the place to get funding for more permanent stations, for more support. Additionally, information and education for our FY22 report. Stephanie reached about 500 students at the annual river honoring, obviously down from past years as we were emerging from COVID and trying to have only reservation schools come to that. She reached about 100 students at the annual lake honoring and presented to numerous elementary school students, middle school students, and adults in college. She also continues to provide information and education materials on all the mediums that we have available to us. And she's working on developing signs for trailheads and on mitigation properties, but also has been helping with the chronic wasting disease projects as well. She We'll continue to do the same thing for next year. It's kind of a standard thing for outreach and education that we do through that program, just trying to keep our media up to date and to continue to inform people. Her time is split with the Bison Range now, so she does a little bit more stuff out there as we're coming through the updates in the museum, and she can focus again on some of the other parts of the reservation.
I have to apologize in advance that I ain't got no cool pictures for y'all to look at. So this, I'm Dan McClure, Fishing Game Chief. So this is the FY22 report for Fish and Game. First of all, I have to say that we are finally fully staffed. So that is a huge thing to accomplish, really. It's taken me a year and a half to get that accomplished. So with that, our wardens have been out patrolling on various different types of equipment, from snowmobiles, thankfully, four-wheelers, motorcycles, mountain bikes, all those things along the river corridor. Also in our trucks and on foot. So the wardens had checked this last year, and they had made contacts with 2,305 people. And that was just from the land. There's a lot of floaters that go by that we don't make contact with because we don't have the boat to be out there. We have 1,208 hours at the AIS inspection station, which a warden is assigned that slot every day on their shift. So through the week, each warden puts in one full day so that we cover it. This year is going to be the same, but now they won't be doubling up because we have more personnel to cover some of that stuff. But last year they made 1,200 hours at the inspection station, and they inspected themselves 92 boats. And then they also do 1,500 security checks around the reservation, and that's along the river corridor. So we see the things, the damages that are happening, say at Little Money, at the Painted Rocks, things like that. I have yet to catch anybody doing anything, but we see that it happens. From those patrols, we see all sorts of things like illegal horn harvest in Ferry Basin when we're watching the river. So we're out there now putting in more time along that area. We did 146-foot patrols, and as Todd said earlier about the signs, we put 68 hours posting signs along the river because people keep tearing them down, shooting them up, and things like that. So then we're back out there the next day doing the same thing over and over and over. We have replaced a lot of them with metal signs now, so now they'll stand to take a little more punishment. We had 76 citations. This is just from the river area, 44 D violations, and those were everything from no conservation permits to fishing violations and things like that. So our future plan is to I hired 2 wardens that are boat certified folks. They'll continue their training, obviously. And then we're working on building a Flathead River boat to be able to patrol the waters. Technically be twice a week because my wardens work separate shifts. So one warden will work at least one day on the river, one day on the lake through the summer. And then on the other shift, the other warden will do the same thing. So potentially 4 days. So we'll be amping up our patrols on the river and the lake. And that's also working with Morgan Post from Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, who's the boat captain from there. So we'll have some showing on the water this year. And then just continuing our regular work as we always been doing in the Fish and Game department.
That concludes our presentation, and we can entertain any questions as we have a few minutes left and are here.
Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you guys for everything you do. Have we ever thought about, and I'm sure it's not very cost effective, about putting garbage receptacles that we pick up in these high traffic areas like along the river? I know, you know, we're not garbage men and everything else, and you guys aren't at all, but we know people are floating, we know people are gonna be out there. We're picking up the garbage after the fact. You know, I think, I don't know. I mean, has that ever been explored?
Speaking from the fish and game aspect of that question, Martin, we, in our office, we do pick up that garbage from when we come across it. I can tell you that putting a garbage receptacle out there is just gonna lead to a lot more destruction. And then picking it up daily would be an issue as well. But the wardens do, when we patrol anywhere on the reservation, we come across campsites that are totally just left abandoned garbage everywhere, and we load that stuff up. And now the issue that we have is we have no place to bring it because we have to work with the county to go bring it to the dump site or those places. So, and we're working on that problem as well. So we never really thought about doing that. However, they would get destroyed within a season, and that would just be a waste of money, I think. But we do clean up as much as we can.
We're also working on trying to get funding for some more recreation management planning that would include more extensive river design and planning. As Dan said, things will get shot up, bears will be attracted if people are leaving really smelly garbage. Todd is planning on hiring someone this year to go to the campgrounds weekly and just drive around and clean and empty garbage and record damage, just try to look at overall condition of our sites. We're trying to build up a database to try to figure out where to direct resources. We wrote an America the Beautiful grant last year to try to do all that and didn't get funded. So we're going to try to scale it back maybe a little bit this year and ask for some more funding for planning, and the river will include that as well.
Good, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at this fishing, this screen here, I want to ask Les a question about if he's going to be stocking any of the high lakes up in South Fork or anywhere else this spring.
Yep, I didn't mention it's part of this program because it's not funded here, but the standard pattern for high mountain lakes is every 3 years they get stocked. And he brought it to my attention before, we didn't get it to this last field season. I think we will, this field season, we might reevaluate some of the stocking rates because they're based on fairly old data now. But back in the 90s, they all got evaluated. We visited them all to see what kind of natural reproduction, at some level, what kind of use or how the existing stocking program was working, and we made some adjustments then. But for the high mountain lakes, it's every 3 years, and that's because it's helicoptered in and they're smaller fish. So even though we're stocking them, we're not stocking catchables up there like we do on some of the valley floor reservoirs, which also get stocked, but they're getting stocked with bigger fish because we can truck them in there.
Good, Bing.
Also, there was an issue brought up about the Liberty Meadows up there, Liberty Creek coming down, and they're going to poison the fish down there. Is there any chance of getting any fish back from Liberty Meadows?
You know, good question. I don't know what the plan is there, but yeah, we can easily put fish back in there. We'd probably just plant them from the local wild stock there, but I didn't mention that will be funded by this funding when we do it, which might be as early as this fall. It's very inexpensive. We're doing it in cooperation with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. They've got a lot of the expertise there, and actually, it's BPA's funding much of it, to tell you the truth. But yeah, the first step is to get them out of there, then check the next year, make sure they're out of there before we go to the effort of restocking it. But I don't see any reason why we wouldn't restock it.
Terry?
Thank you, Ms. Chair. So Les,
guess we're not talking about you, but I'd like this cutthroat. Could you explain more about the super males?
Yeah, this is fairly recent technology, so I still consider it research, but and Idaho's leading the way, so they're close. What they first do is genetically alter West Slope cutthroat and to become super males, which are YY chromosomes. So when they breed, the outcome, when they successfully breed in the wild, the outcome is simply breeding is males. Everything that gets bred is going to produce males. So what you're doing is swamping the, and again, we'd be doing not cutthroat, but we'd be doing it to brook trout. So in Magpie Creek, what we're doing is reducing the overall population of brook trout because the research so far says, yes, it likely can work and will work, but you've got to plant these super male brook trout on top of fairly low population of brook trout for it to work. So what we're doing in Magpie, and admittedly, sometimes it's kind of filler work for our crew too. It actually works out pretty well for us when we don't have full crew to do something or the lake is too tough to get on. The guys go down to Magpie Creek and spend the day electrofishing out brook trout. And if you look at the graph, we're being fairly successful, and we're also talking to the researchers in Idaho. How's that going? So once we figure we've got them low enough, we'll probably do the experiment. We'll get some super male brook trout, put them in there. They'll breed with what's left in there, and the offspring will all be males. So eventually, the only brook trout in there is going to be male, and it should completely eliminate the brook trout population. And then Magpie Creek will become a pure strain cutthroat resource without the competition of brook trout.
Is there CSKT Creek pretty clean of brook trout, or is it mainly?
I think CSKT has them. Rive does not. Rive is just pure. Doesn't have the brook trout problem. That's a real unique resource these days. Often where we have West Slope cutthroat, the problems are rainbows that we've got in there and they're hybridized, or there's brook trout in there for competition. And Magpie is one of those. CSKT, I believe, has brook trout as well.
Follow-up question to Dan. Be nice to pick up a jet ski. You could run up and down that river in a hurry, and I think it'd be a little cheaper to acquire unless you could get a jet boat. But with those gravel bars out there, you can't run a propeller out there very well. I know out there at Dixon, we get probably a dozen people from Missoula that dock there, and it'd sure be nice to be checking them because I'm sure a lot of them are pushing the envelope. And another thing is, it'd be nice to get just a single sign of no shooting there, because we're always having to yell at people to quit shooting over there. I know it's posted, but it's so small. It'd be nice to have a larger sign saying absolutely no shooting, because there's usually a lot of activity, kids over there swimming and stuff. So, but thank you for what you did.
Any other questions? I have one just on planning. So, Tribal Council adopted the Cultural Rivers Ordinance. And in that, called for the Flathead River Corridor to be the first plan. So if you're starting the planning effort for the lower Flathead River, then, I would tier it underneath that document and move it forward that way as a Cultural River Ordinance, plan.
It's
So-
definitely on our list of management plans that we're trying to get some assistance to create, because we have about 6 that we need, and the cultural rivers is one of them. So, we're trying to figure out how to make it work efficiently and get a bunch done at one time.
On the AIS, subject matter, we always had a standing offer to protect our upper Flathead Basin and operate any check station that needed to be to secure our western Montana and particularly the Flathead Basin. And in saying that, we've always had a standing offer to run the Browning check station if for some reason the Blackfeet Nation couldn't do it. So I don't know if there's been any reports on how successful they've been operating over there, or if there's any issues there.
I drove through there for the last couple of weekends and they have not been open that I've seen. Where we have been, I'm not sure, and I'll follow up with Katie and Tom about if they're functioning.
And the other thing that we offered, if Blackfeet were still interested, in do a collaboration where we would do a combo station and move it more over to this way, closer to Hungry Horse. Hear anything, Martin? How they're doing?
No, they didn't give any kind of report.
The final thing we need to do is to receive your approval to move the draft SKQ submittal for 23 to the consultation group so that they can review it for the final version.
There's no other questions. I would entertain a motion to approve the. Oh, go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Whisper, has there been a count yet on the elk population down in, Prairie Basin over Camas Prairie yet this year?
Did you say elk? Okay. Yeah, so we did have Ferry Basin, surveyed this spring and I think the estimates were about 1,200. So that does include, because we surveyed them in the winter, all of the migratory, off-reservation elk that come there for, winter. And then, they kind of disperse in the spring. So, but that's what our accounts were looking like for, this spring. Or this year. So February, sorry, this year's surveys.
Any other questions, comments? Motion by Ellie to approve the 2023 SKQ draft submittal to the consultation group. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Good job.
Thank you all very much.
Get out there and stop that snow.